where stories of love and passion unfold. Let's begin our exciting journey into the world of human relationships. Like love, dislike can happen at first sight. And it's just as groundless. Perhaps this feeling arises at the level of chemical elements. I work in a hypermarket chain, middle management level. I don't have any staff under my supervision, I mostly interact with the external environment. What happens inside the hypermarket hardly concerns me. That's why I didn't exactly fear, not that I concealed it much, of course, but I didn't hide my connection with the cashier Tina. After all, she's not my subordinate. But everyone already knew that we've been together for a year and planning to get married. Not that it particularly interested anyone, but women are women. Tina once told one colleague in confidence, then another, and another, in secret, and the result was predictably known to the entire female part of the team. I think if it weren't for my fiancé's lack of discretion, our relationship would have remained unnoticed for a long time. She arrives at work an hour earlier than me and leaves earlier. Tina is attractive. Both her face and figure are good. Our relationship has always been good, we never argued, and we practically had sex every night. And then we had Kit that he got a job as a warehouse worker, dealing with loading and unloading, transporting goods to the sales floor. At first glance, an ordinary guy, with a regular face, athletic, taller than me, and much broader in the shoulders. And he was very fond of women. Very soon it became known that he was making advances to practically every girl and woman in the store, shamelessly flirting and quite successfully at that. You could tell by how one saleswoman after another started spending more time with him, leaving work together, and then suddenly, after some time, all communication between Kit and his conquests abruptly ended. It wouldn't have bothered me, and I wouldn't have paid attention to it if it weren't for the fact that Kit took an instant dislike to me. He made it a habit to tease me every chance he got, on any occasion, for any reason. These jabs weren't confrontational enough to provoke a direct conflict, but whenever he cracked jokes and made snide remarks in the presence of others, I always felt uncomfortable. And, as it happens, I know that many, after shouting responses to him in solitude, in retrospect, I came up with sharp retorts that I could have used to embarrass him right then and there. But these sharp comebacks always occurred to me much later. He could say, seeing my polished shoes, that it seems the only physical exercise I could do is bending with a shoe brush. He could casually make remarks about my musical taste, eliciting approving laughter from colleagues. Indeed, once when I was talking on the phone, shifting from one foot to another, he jokingly told the saleswomen that if I urgently needed to use the restroom and was afraid I wouldn't make it, adult diapers could be found in the hygiene department. And all the girls who were nearby burst into laughter. Even Tina, damn it, maybe I was too tolerant that week. Not once did it come to my mind to give him a worthy response. Thank God I didn't try to reply. There's nothing more awkward and pathetic than trying to respond seriously to overblown jokes. I started avoiding crossing paths with him, and if he happened to be in my way, I tried to change direction, to bypass him. It seems he understood that. In any case, he started showing up in unexpected places, and without his nasty jokes, it wasn't necessary to avoid him anymore, and then he found out about my relationship with Tina. I noticed a few times how he talked to her when there were no customers around, and he was bringing a cart with merchandise to the sales floor. He seemed to be joking and flirting, and Tina laughed, covering her mouth with her fingers. Just like she used to when we had just started talking. Tina, I said to her that evening, we need to talk. And I told her about the hidden bullying that Kit was orchestrating, about his reputation as a ladies' man, and finally, that he seemed to have set his sights on her. I spoke openly and hoped for understanding. Tina, I said to her, I'm asking you to stop any communication with him. You may think I'm paranoid, but I feel that he intends to do something malicious. Just don't think that I don't trust you. No, I love you and completely trust you, but Kit. You know he has already seduced several girls from our store. Seems like it's a kind of sport for him. Sweetheart, what's wrong with you? My fiancé looked at me sadly. I love you, and I won't allow him any liberties. Don't even think about it. You have nothing to worry about. She said this, and I should have been reassured, but it occurred to me that it would be better to tell her that she shouldn't communicate with him at all and, finally, explain to him why. The next day, I walked along the main aisle of the store and saw Tina and Kit. They were standing quite far from her department. He was saying something to her, and she was giggling. I know the language of gestures. Not perfectly, but I learned some poses and gestures from marketing books. Her posture was open. Nooks of her shoes were invitingly turned out. She noticeably pulled her shoulders back, clearly emphasizing her large chest. With one hand, she held the wrist of the other, demonstrating her palm to him. The distance between them was quite friendly, but at that moment, I somehow clearly understood that she was no longer mine. Her pose could be described with one short word: yes. I didn't show any signs, just walked by. That day I saw them 3 more times, each time in different parts of the store, but far from her department. There were no obvious actions, movements, embraces, or, even more so, kisses in their communication, only conversations. However, each time her poses expressed clear consent. How did I observe them? Well, I simply entered the security room with a premium bag of chips bought from our store. I told the security guard that I changed my mind, bought a huge bag, and now I don't know what to do with it. I mentioned that I saw him eating chips. The guard happily confirmed that he indeed loved chips. I handed him the open bag, and almost casually mentioned that I was planning a marketing promotion and would like to observe the behavior of customers. He graciously allowed me to enter the observation room several times, and, pretending to be busy with something on my smartphone, I observed Tina and Kit. Everything was predetermined. In the evening, I tried to talk to Tina again, but the conversation almost immediately ended after she blatantly lied to me, claiming she hadn't spoken to Kit today. I no longer knew what to say. Well, more accurately, I could say what I saw, that she lied, but what's the use? The line hadn't been crossed yet, and if I laid out everything I knew, the consequence might be that she would become more cunning. There was a small chance that she was still worth it. So, I kept silent and simply waited, weakly hoping for that chance. Not that I was spying on Tina, but... yes, I was spying a little. When she left for work an hour earlier than me in the morning, I would go to the store, head to security, casually mention the early morning customer behavior study, and monitor Tina or Kit on the monitors. Also, I tried to surround her with special care and attention. And love. And talked a lot about the upcoming wedding. About the future, well, at least I tried. On Saturday, she didn't come home after work. At least, when I returned an hour after she was supposed to be back, she wasn't there. Only a text message about meeting with friends until late at night. In principle, I understood everything. There was no direct evidence, but for some reason, I immediately understood. And then they appeared, the evidence. Keith had sent them to me as a link to a video in his cloud. I saw how she lowered her head below his waist, giving him intimate attention. Then Keith turned his phone camera, smirked into the lens, and showed me. I was sure that he was recording this action especially for me, the middle finger. Then the camera showed her again, and I saw him flick her nose lightly, catching her attention, and she looked up, sort of indignant, but not seriously, laughing, the way girls do when they're teased and they actually like it. Hey, we'll watch the video later and remember the good times. I heard his voice. Come on, give me a smoochy smoochy. She didn't seem to know her lover was going to send the video to anyone, but it looked like she was showing it to me. It was over. I mean, between me and her. And they were still going at it. Ashamed to admit, I couldn't tear myself away from the spectacle and watch to the end. Well, I heard his panting voice. Am I better than him? Better. She replied with a laugh. I'll take care of you at work tomorrow. We'll have time before he gets here. It's dangerous at work, she tried to object, but he slapped her lightly on the cheek and said, I'll decide when and where I have sex with you. You're mine now. It was a strange feeling. I felt terribly hurt and somehow ashamed that I opened the wardrobe and began gathering her clothes. About an hour later, I brought 3 boxes and a bag with her belongings to her parents' house, unloaded them at the door, rang the doorbell, and quickly stepped back into hiding. I waited until the door opened, leaving her surprised father to inspect the items, then hurriedly drove away. Upon returning home, I took out the bottle of gin she had given me a few months ago, untouched until now. I was about to uncork it when a funny plan suddenly crossed my mind. After all, tomorrow at work, Kit would probably smirk at me, confident that I wouldn't dare to publicly admit that I had become a cuckold or, even more so, engage in a fight with him. Surely, he would boast about his victory to a couple of colleagues, maybe even show them a video. Behind my back, they would gossip and chuckle, both those he presented with evidence and those who enjoyed rumors. What would be left for me? Resign and leave far away. But the plan was already forming in my mind that I turned off my phone, silenced the doorbell, secured the door with a latch, and went to sleep, blocking my ears with makeshift earplugs. So, I didn't hear the knocking on the door when she returned or her cries. I didn't even know how long she struggled to get into the apartment. Later, the neighbors told me that her hysterics at the door lasted for over an hour until she left somewhere. I was no longer concerned about where she spent the night, and in the morning, I arrived at work, leaving my car a block away just in case. With a paper bag in hand, I entered the hall and immediately locked eyes with Kit, predictably expecting my arrival, surrounded by several of his colleagues, loaders and saleswomen. They all looked at me with curiosity, some with mocking expressions, some with sympathetic ones, but curiosity was evident in everyone's gaze. And I lived up to their expectations. Kit. I expressed joy quite convincingly, or so it seemed to me. Thanks to you. You saved me. This is for you, have a drink, you can even share it with my ex, I grinned widely, pulling out a bottle from the bag. Hey, it's not from our store, I brought it from home. All witnesses. Kit, honestly, I don't know how long I would have hesitated to break up with her. My conscience was bothering me, how could I? She didn't give me a reason. If I tell her now that I'm not interested in her anymore, that she's boring, I'll think of myself as a jerk later. And when I realized you were making a move on her, I was afraid of scaring you away, pretended not to notice, feared that you'd catch on to my intentions and wouldn't want to be the obedient executor of my plan. But you, well done, you handled everything superbly. What? He blinked rapidly. What are you talking about? What plan? Well, you see, I feigned surprise, you really had no idea. Are you really, so clueless? I pretended to search for a less offensive word, that you didn't understand why I didn't try to stop your, affair. Kit, my dear, I've wanted to break up with her for a long time. You understand, right? She's not in my league, as they say. We seem to live together, but I always felt like Michael Jordan playing against a neighborhood team. I wanted to break away, but I didn't want to look like a jerk, not in her eyes, but in the eyes of those around us, even here, all of you, I gestured towards the crowd of onlookers. Would consider me as such. And now I have an excellent reason to break up. I've practically done it already. And you helped me with that. I surveyed the spectators, who were eagerly following the unfolding drama. Did you all hear? I'm breaking up with her because of her betrayal. And no one dares to call me a jerk and a fool. I'm getting rid of her for a reason. Laughter erupted, and the girls began animatedly discussing what had happened. I noticed that Kit's partner, standing next to him, held his phone in his hand. It had a distinctive themed case, and on the screen was the very video that Kit had sent me yesterday. Oh, by the way, I exclaimed. Did everyone watch the video? Let me see. I took Jack's phone, and the guy mechanically released it from his grip. Now, you have to see this. I felt a strong excitement and a trembling in my hands as I tapped on the icon in the folder. My fingers weren't very cooperative, and I didn't immediately realize that I had selected multiple files, highlighted the Send to All Contacts option in the pop-up menu, and clicked OK. Now, I mumbled, trying to buy time and watching the spinning loading circle. It's ready. Oops, it seems something went wrong, I said. Now it's right, and I pressed play. Poor Kit. In a minute, his triumph turned into a farce. What's more, having done what I did, I suddenly realized that along with the video transforming my fiancée into my ex, other video files had been sent to all of Kit's contacts, and who knows what was in them. I held Kit's phone, showing the video to everyone, and everyone greedily stared at it when suddenly I heard several gasps almost simultaneously. What, did you send the video to all contacts? One of the saleswomen exclaimed in horror, looking at her phone. To everyone? Including my husband? Oh, no. Another girl moaned, following her. And mine. 5 girls were screaming hysterically within a minute, showering curses on both Kit and me. Everything became clear. In this folder on his cloud, Kit kept other videos resembling what was currently playing for all present colleagues, showcasing his other passions, among which were married women. Oh, Kit turned out to be quite the ladies' man, so to speak, not letting a single opportunity slip by. The most interesting part was that, due to the nature of his work, he had contacts with practically all the store employees and even some members of their families. At this very moment, these family members could be watching the videos, unpleasantly surprised to discover something new about their wives and daughters. But even if not everyone had seen these videos, there would surely be someone who would inform them about it. That I saw my ex only around noon. She looked pale, and her eyes were red. When our eyes met, I saw horror in them. I think it was not horror directed at me, but at what was happening in general. Everyone avoided her, except for a couple of those women who were hysterical about the videos sent to their husbands. They were talking to her about something. The next day, Kit didn't show up for work, and by lunchtime, there was a rumor that he had been severely beaten by some hooligans. Very severely. It was possible that he might not return to work after leaving the hospital. Mending broken limbs takes a long time. Several saleswomen came to work with a thick layer of makeup on their faces. However, the makeup couldn't conceal the deep sadness on their faces, intensified by bright shadows under their eyes. As we conclude our journey into the world of human relationships,